Let's bring in our legal guys, Avery Freeman, a civil rights attorney and law professor, joining us from Cleveland. Good to see you. And Richard Herman. Hello. And Richard Herman, a New York criminal defense attorney and law professor, joining us from Plantation, Florida. Good to see you as well.
That's right.
All right, gentlemen, this is a real tough case because, you know, Richard, you say that this really is a case, or it boils down to a case of he said, she said. The family is saying that the doctor disqualified the child because of her condition. The doctor, however, is saying this is an issue of whether she can tolerate those post-surgical treatments. Namely, she could face seizures and even brain damage. So is this a common juncture that we're seeing between what the medical community says and what the family wants, Richard?
Well, Fred, you said it right. It's a very tough case. And hospitals have to generate criteria to rely upon in awarding kidneys. There are 87,000 people annually on kidney lists who need kidneys. I think last year 4,500 died waiting for kidneys. So they have to determine who are the best candidates who could successfully live with the kidney. And here, the hospital's at a disadvantage to comment because of patient confidentiality and federal HIPAA laws. But I can only tell you that the mental disability is only one factor used by the hospitals. It is a factor, but it's not the sole criteria. And in this case, this young child has an immune disease issue and a heart disease issue, which may not work with the transplant. So it's a very difficult case.
It is difficult. Everyone agrees on that one, Avery. And so, you know, you wonder, if this is a legal fight in the making, or is this a dispute over medical ethics? How do you see it?
It's actually both. Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 prohibits the denial of service based on disability. Now, if disability alone were the reason, the hospital could very well be violating federal law. But it has to be considered in the context of sound medical judgment. The bottom line is, if there are factors other than intellectual disability that go into the formula, then that will determine the outcome. And what we know this week, coming week, is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the family, the Rivera family, will meet and talk this out in more detail.
Okay, in the meantime, just for the record, Children's Hospital did say in this statement that we do not disqualify potential transplant candidates on the basis of intellectual abilities. We have transplanted many children with a wide range of disabilities, including physical and mental disabilities. And they've also responded to a barrage of Facebook comments that have come their way saying, quote, "We're listening, we hear your concerns, and take seriously your posts, emails, and phone." But as you said, Avery, there will be other discussions later on in the week involving all parties.
Right.
All right, meantime, let's talk about this lawsuit that's very interesting, this involving footwear. Skechers, a lot of folks are familiar with the shape-up or the tone-up shoes. Well, now a young lady by the name of Holly Ward is among those who says she wore these sneakers for 5 months at work as a waitress and on lots of walks, and she claims that she has developed severe pain in the hips, and that, according to her doctor, she actually had fractured hips, and they're drawing the correlation between these fractures and the wearing of these shape-ups. So, Avery, you first. How do you go about trying to prove this case? How would Holly Ward do that?
The key that Holly and the class which she represents will have to undertake is to look at the so-called safety tests that were undertaken by Skechers. This is exactly the reason why the Federal Trade Commission whacked Reebok with about $25 million in fines, because the question of the science. This usually affects women 40 and over. There's a real question of whether or not there are defects. It's a products liability case. We'll find out in discovery when the safety tests emerge, and at that point we're going to be able to judge whether or not the case is meritorious.
Okay, so Richard, quickly, what is the responsibility of a shoe manufacturer to ensure your safety when you're wearing their shoes?
Well, it's their obligation to test it to make sure it's sound and it's a viable product and it's not going to injure people. And of course, Skechers is saying this is a very sketchy case, Fred, because millions and millions of people wear these shoes and go unharmed and uninjured. We don't know the physical history of this small group of plaintiffs. We don't know if they were walking, eating donuts. We don't know what they were doing. We don't know their physical body systems.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of that's going to come into play here. But, you know, Avery's right. Reebok got banged out for $25 million in a similar case. So
interesting.
I think Skechers is probably going to settle this.
All right, there's more. We got to handle this case in about 45 seconds or you know, less. So, Richard, I know you say, you know, Garth Brooks, he's got friends in low places, and he's hoping that he's going to have friends in the jury pool as well, because now he's suing a hospital over the fact that they took his money. He says it was a donation of $500,000. He thought in return that he would get his mother's name on a building, but the hospital says, no, this was an unconditional gift. So there has to be a paper trail, right, Richard?
Well, you would expect there to be a paper trail and do what you got to do. He sued them, but the hospital is saying, hey, listen, this was an anonymous gift and it was unconditional, and we had no obligation to name any facility, and it was only after the fact that Mr. Brooks decided he wanted something named after his mom.
Okay, so Avery, you want to sing a few bars on this one?
I don't have to. It's all in his roots. He showed up in boots. Look at people in Oklahoma love this guy. They love this guy. I don't know who a hospital is going to take $500,000 to name the entire hospital. That's a tough one. But you know what? I think Garth has the charisma, and I think the jury is going to love this guy. But you know what? He's got to prove the case by preponderance of the evidence.
All right.
We'll find out next week when the jury comes back.
We will see whose praises will be sung.
Right.
All right, thanks so much, Avery.
Yep. Ooh, good one. Good one.
All right, Avery, Richard,
like
thanks so much. We're going to see you again in about 20 minutes or so to talk about a hearing for a man who allegedly faked being a member of the Rockefeller family and now facing murder charges.